Okay, Chair, we're live on YouTube.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this virtual licensing subcommittee meeting, which is being conducted with members, officers, and members of the public at various locations, communicating using audio and video and online. There's also the opportunity for the public and press to listen and view proceedings. Before the meeting starts, I'm going to ask the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings are going to work today and to confirm that members and officers who should be here are in attendance. So I'm going to pass over to Anna.
Thank you, Chair. Just going to explain a bit about the subcommittee. The subcommittee consists of 3 voting members with a 4th non-participating member listening to the hearing. In the event that a voting member loses connection, the hearing will adjourn until connection can be restored. If the adjournment exceeds 10 minutes or it is apparent sooner that reconnection will not be possible, the 4th member will replace the absent member and become a voting member of the subcommittee. If a quorum of 3 members that have been present throughout the hearing is not possible, the hearing will be adjourned. Applicant. In the event that the applicant loses connection, the hearing will adjourn until connection can be restored. If it becomes apparent that reconnection will not be possible, the hearing will be adjourned to a stated date. Responsible authority. In the event that the responsible authority loses connection, the hearing will adjourn until connection can be restored. If it becomes apparent that the reconnection will not be possible, the hearing will be adjourned to a stated date. If the responsible authority has completed their presentation and closing statement before losing connection, the Chair may decide to continue with the hearing. Decision. The subcommittee will undertake their deliberations in private, and the aim is that they will return to announce their determination on the live stream. However, they will not wait until all parties are connected. A copy of the decision will be forwarded to all parties electronically as soon as practicable and will be able to be viewed on the Council's YouTube recording of the meeting. If, having retired, members believe that the deliberations for a decision will take too long, to avoid parties waiting, they may decide not to announce it live on the day. If this is the case, an announcement will be made to this effect and the meeting will be closed. The decision would then be announced in writing within 5 working days of the meeting. Live streaming. The hearing is being streamed live on the Council's YouTube channel and Zoom. If live streaming fails, then the meeting will adjourn for a short period to see if the connection can be re-established. If live streaming cannot recommence in a reasonable period of time, then a decision will be made as to whether the hearing will continue or be adjourned to a stated date. In order to confirm that the required members, officers, and applicant are present and can hear and be heard, when I call your name, please can you indicate that you are in attendance today? So, panel chair, we have Councillor Elizabeth Dennis-Harburg.
Present.
Councillor Mike Rice.
Present.
Councillor Richard Sake. Can you confirm you're here, Councillor Sake?
I just did. Present.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And Councillor Gerald Morris.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Officers, we have Stephen Cobb. Can't hear Stephen. Could you unmute your microphone and just confirm you're here, Stephen, please? Okay, we'll move on. Molly Shields.
Hello, yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Nurinetta Kativu.
Here.
Thank you. Shane Crow.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Anne Davidson.
Yes, I'm here too.
Matthew Hepburn.
Present.
Thank you. We have Mark Robertson helping us with IT today. And Dale Mabbott, applicant.
Here.
Thank you. Just to talk about noise interference briefly, please ensure that your mobile phone and other noise emitting devices are muted, and please activate the mute button on the tablet or computer when you're not speaking. Rules of debate. The meeting will follow the hearing procedure as contained within the agenda. If panel members or the applicant wish to speak, please use the blue raise hand button located in the participants section at the bottom of your screen, and this will alert the moderator that you wish to speak. The moderator will inform the chair of the names of the speakers who should wait to be invited by the chair to address the meeting. If any of the officers need to address the meeting at any point during proceedings to aid discussions, please may I ask that you respectfully interject and await a response before addressing the chair or the panel. Are there any questions before we start the meeting?
Yes, can someone talk me through where I can find the raise hand button, because I'm not sure.
If you go down to participants at the bottom of your screen,
All right.
click on there, it should be in there.
Yes, found it.
Thank you. I'll now hand over to the chair. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Anna. And sort of just to assist further, if anyone is struggling with finding participants or trying to understand how to use this thing in this strange new world of online meetings, I'll be watching the screens. And for example, Dale, if you need to speak and you're sort of struggling to juggle what you're thinking about and the tech side of it, just put your own physical hand up and I'll make a note and bring you in when it's appropriate. Okay, lovely. So I need to outline the process that we're going to follow today for the hearing. It's the same procedure as many of us will have gone through previously. So we've had my welcome, we've introduced the councillors and members of the subcommittee. Our legal advisor today is Nora Nita. Licensing officers present, I think Molly is going to be delivering and assisting, and Steve Cobb is in an observational capacity today. The responsible authority, we are hearing from Environmental Health at North Herts District Council today. I don't believe we've got any police representation. And obviously we're hearing from Dale, who's the applicant. So we'll have a note from the legal advisor first. We'll hear Molly's report, and then we'll hear from, I think, Environmental Health and Dale's submissions. No, we won't. I've read those bullet points again. I always do this, and Steve will shout at me. Lovely. So the first thing that we're going to do is hear from our licensing officer. So Molly will take us through her report, and if we have any questions as a panel, we'll ask her as well. And the responsible authority, so Environmental Health and Dale as the applicant, are able to ask questions of the licensing officer based on her report. Then after we've heard from the licensing officer, that's when you, Dale, can put your application to us and sort of make your case and your submissions. And again, we'll ask if there's any questions of fact from Environmental Health about the application, and if the members of the panel have any questions for you as well, or want sort of additional detail about what's in your application, we'll try and draw that out at this part of the process. After Dale's spoken, we'll hear from Environmental Health, and again, if there's any questions that Dale has for Environmental Health, he's free as the applicant to ask those at that stage, and the panel will also ask Environmental Health for any points of clarification that we need. I think I've got a note saying that we may ask questions of Hertfordshire Constabulary, but I don't believe we've got Herts Constabulary present with us today. After we've heard all of the applications and submissions, and after we've asked all of the questions and everyone's had that opportunity to sort of draw things out as much as possible, we'll hear the closing statements. So the first closing statement will come from the licensing officer, and then Environmental Health, and the final person who has the word in closing is the applicant. So you have the last word before we move to consider things, Dale. Okay, if there are any legal points that have arisen during the course of the discussion, the legal advisor will summarise those for us, and then the panel will retire and will consider things and reach a decision. In normal times, we'd go into a separate room and then come back into the council chamber, hopefully relatively quickly to hand it down. But given the constraints of the current situation, as Anna's indicated, it may take us a bit longer, and it might be more productive to break and leave it until another day at that particular point in time. Okay, and as soon as we do reach that decision, I will announce the subcommittee's decision, including the reasons that we've reached it, and as usual, it will be published. So that's sort of a very quick run through of how things are going to go today. I'll do my best to assist everybody and make sure that the applicant and responsible authorities are supported as best they can be in this very strange and unusual time in dealing with this application. And I will hand over to Molly for her report, if that's okay.
Hi, good morning. Okay, so good morning, Chairman and everybody. So this is sort of just to run through my report and just a few remarks that I wish to make before we begin. So there is one amendment to the published report, and this is that the dates of the 10 should read the 26th to the 31st of October 2020. And I do have several other comments relating to today's hearing. This is an application for a temporary event notice for a non-licensed area of the Engine Pub in Baldock. This area is a raised outdoor platform that has been installed by the current premises supervisor, Mr. Dale Maybert, in the rear garden of the premises. It is not covered by the existing premises licence, hence the need for a 10 to use that area in conjunction with the licensed premises. The subcommittee should only consider the impact on the licensing objectives of the raised area. This is not an opportunity to review the existing premises licence. The licensing process should determine how the use of the raised outdoor platform can be managed and what activities, if any, are appropriate in relation to the narrow consideration of the 4 licensing objectives. Any matters not relating to one of the licensing objectives are not relevant to today's hearing and must not be discussed or considered. The prevention of public nuisance licensing objective has been raised in representation. The prevention of public nuisance. This relates to the nuisance coming from or associated with the premises and can cover matters such as noise, light, litter, or odour. Public nuisance under the Licensing Act 2003 has a wider remit than the statutory nuisance. This is the only objective that has been raised in the representation. The Council's licensing policy states that the lead responsible authority for public nuisance is the Environmental Protection Team. It is relevant to mention that a noise abatement notice has been served by the Environmental Protection Team to the premises in relation to a high level of noise complaints received by the Council relating to the engine over the past year. Whilst this is a factor in the case before you, this is not the reason for the objection to the 10 application made by Mr. Maybert, as the noise abatement notice is dealt with under legislation separate to the licensing regime. The objection is based upon the potential for a breach of the Prevention of Public Nuisance licensing objective under the Licensing Act of 2003, and it is for the subcommittee to decide what weight they proportion to this during this hearing. The abatement notice is a matter of fact and should be accepted by the subcommittee as duly served by a professional officer. Mr. Maybert's opportunity to challenge the abatement notice is a matter for the court independent of today's hearing. Whilst the subcommittee is focusing on the raised seating area, the fact that this is an area to be used in conjunction with an existing premises licence means that the cumulative impact of the additional rear and the licensed premises can be considered. Conditions cannot be attached to a 10. The subcommittee should determine whether the 10 can go ahead or a counter notice should be issued preventing the use of the raised outdoor area.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much for that, Molly. I'm just going to quickly scroll back to my procedure crib sheet because I always forget the order the questions are supposed to go. Lovely. So in that case, can I ask, do we have any questions from environmental protection officers for the licensing officer?
No.
No. Excellent. In that case, then could I ask if the applicant has any questions he wishes to ask the licensing officer based on her report? No?
No.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so members of the panel, do you have any questions for Molly?
Yes, please, Madam Chairman. Richard Thake.
Yeah.
I just want clarification at absolute certain. 2.2 of the agenda item. The notification is for the sale of alcohol between the 24th and the 30th. She has changed that to the 26th to the 31st. So are we considering the use of this platform, licensing the use of this platform under this temporary event notice for only that period?
Yes, Councillor Sager.
After the 31st, any, if we were to grant it, it would terminate.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, lovely. I've got no questions. Do you have any questions for Molly at this time, Mike? No? Okay,
No, Chair.
excellent. Brilliant. Thank you very much. In that case, the next person that we need to hear from is Mr. Maybert. If you'd like to make your submissions to the subcommittee.
Hi, everyone. Just to make you aware, yes, we have got an abatement notice. Can you all still see me? Because I've got a letter and I've got to try and read off it.
Yeah, we can see you and hear you, don't worry.
That's all right then. We have got an abatement notice issued upon us, and I am fully aware of this. This abatement notice was issued because of noise from music events that we were doing during the summer, for like, you know, try and help the business. But what I've been asked to state by from our solicitors is I've got to state the abatement notice is two separate matters and not anything to do with the TENS that has been applied for. The abatement notice has been appealed and it is waiting a court date, but due to COVID, it has been delayed. Now, I've also been asked to state that the primary points that the Environmental Protection Officer, the 5 matters below, have nothing to do with the TENS application. They relate to music nuisance and customer noises during music events, which we disputed being a public nuisance. This TENS is simply to allow an additional seating area for our customers during the COVID pandemic. When we have been asked to keep people outside as much as possible. Obviously, the engine itself has a very large garden, but a very small indoors area. This TENS is to act as a test for us, because obviously the pandemic, we do believe, is going to be here till next year in spring and summer. So the plan going forward with Greene King, myself and TLT, which is the Greene King solicitors, is that we use these TENS to build up a storyline, to say, one, if it's going to be a profitable investment from us as a business, but two, that when we want to make a full application in the new year to do a license variation, we will have the information that we needed from this. Obviously, the environmental protection has raised some points. So below are the reasons why the environmental protection has raised an objection. Each question, or I'll read it out, followed by my answer or from the solicitor's answer. So the first question was, the Environmental Protection Officer states that the council has received over 20 complaints of noise on 18 dates between December 2019 and October 2020 from 11 different sources. From our understanding, the Environmental Protection Officer says 11 different sources. So is that 11 houses that are making these complaints? Because with that in mind, then it works out that logically we've had 18 events, but only 11 people making complaints. The Environmental Protection Officer states that there is 80 houses within 100 metres area of the premises. We have been asking for details about complaints and on which events they are, so we can try and, as a business, plan what events we can do and what events we can't do. But we've had nothing back apart from we've just been told that there's been issues, such as when an event in December. We worked hard and changed the nature of this because the December event was a different type of an event. So when we got told that we had noise complaints, we then changed up and started not having certain events or certain type of events, shall we say, like type of music and at the property. So far we've put 4 on our banned list. We have worked hard and we have changed the nature of what we are doing to try and work with the officers. We have our own sound team, so we have 2 independent companies that are nothing to do with us. They're nothing to do with the business or nothing to do with the property. We have one that does the sound from inside, and we have another company that does our sound levels for the outside. to check the levels for us, and therefore this is the reason why we have disputed whether the complaints are fair or not. But the officers won't work with us on this, and it's all about enforcement and not working together. The second question, that answer, by the way, was from my solicitor, not from me. All right. The second question, a noise abatement notice under Section 80 of the Environmental Protection was issued to us. That was the question that the environmental officer stated. The points that we've raised is the abatement issue was noticed and appealed for on the very next working day by us getting it, from us getting it. And we are waiting for a court hearing. I am aware that there is a management hearing on the 12th of November, and that's all I know on that. I will state that when we got told about we were having complaints, we have shown to try and reduce the noise from these events by many factors, which I've been advised from the solicitors not to comment too much into it. The abatement notice is to do with a noise permit from the property from amplified music, which, as I have stated, this tent is for a platform for dining and to have and not to have any form of music on or played from. It is just solely to have, you know, our customers, like Molly said, it is outside our licensing area, so we need to have it licensed to allow our customers to sit on this platform to eat food and drink, and that's solely what it is for. The environmental protection states there are a large number of resident properties located close to the premises, which we will be disturbed by the noise from this event. Again, as we've stated, this is not an event, this is just a platform that we're having. Where am I? I'm not sure why the council believes that this is an event, and they're talking about an event when we've clearly made it in the temporary event notice that this is for a dining experience, and we're using the platform as a unique selling point for the property, as it's we're the only pub in this area to have the ability to give our customers an experience whilst eating and drinking. One of where the environmental protection officer states that we have residential properties close to us, we also have another pub that is literally on our doorstep as our closest neighbour. We also have a main road travelling. I don't know the direction, but it travels that way. A main road, which from our sound engineers that monitor the sound from the outside, the noise from his verdict, the noise from the meter checks, the average person talks at around 70 dBA, but when the traffic goes past, you can't hear the event and you can't hear anyone inside because our meters are picking up noise levels at 85 to 90 dBA. Now, I'm not an expert in noise. I'm not going to sit here and say I am. This is why I employ contractors from outside to deal with this. Tell her I'm not available. I've got to scroll down. The environmental protection states that noise sources which are highly likely to affect the local residents include people, noise, so people making noise including shouting, laughing and singing, music noise which is deregulated. We have been told by the license holder that there will be, that's what I've said. We've just copied and pasted the questions.
That's all right, take your time, you're doing well.
That's all right. The first one we rate is during the COVID, obviously there is government guidelines and the law states that customers are not allowed to shout and sing. Now, since the 4th of July, we are working very hard to maintain this to the point that we have had multiple visits from the police coming out, and these are multiple visits due to licensing, not that we've been reported to or anything. They're out doing their licensing checks. They've actually come out multiple times and carried out licensing checks and they have clearly stated that everything that we are doing is under control with the government COVID guidelines. Now, obviously within them guidelines, the shouting, laughing and singing is part of these, and obviously the environmental protection officer is stating that this is going to happen. Music, noise, I can confirm again, this is for a dining experience and not for any events. So no noise from this platform will be generated itself from any music sources. The environmental protection also states that they don't have confidence that I have control over activities. Obviously, the points that I'm going to put out now are the points that we feel that should be raised over the last year we took over the Engine Pub on the 25th of October 2019. And these facts here are to confirm that we do have confidence and we do have control over the activities that we raise and that we do in this property. The first one, they have failed to explain, again, this is coming from a solicitor, by the way, so the words are a bit, they have failed to explain why they have given, why they have been they have failed to explain. They've been operating without. They've been failed to explain why we are still operating. If the environmental protection team feels that we have any issues with the COVID, such as the noise, the shouting, and things like that, why we're not being closed down. But then again, the police have actually turned up to the property on multiple licensing visits and have actually deemed us to be doing everything that we should be doing. If there was any issues from the music, to deal with the officers, if they're willing to provide evidence. We've asked several times for the environmental protection officer to provide any evidence of these noises. But when I asked the environmental protection officer, when they issued us the abatement notice, under what grounds have we been served this? The answer we got back was because we could hear it. Now, again, I've been told not to comment any further from that. They seem not to care. They seem not to care that COVID is a really difficult time for businesses, and that have helped. That any help that we can is given is appreciated, rather than using a stick rather than working. They're rather using a stick rather than working with us. Solicitors use a very good terminology here, and it's quite hard to understand it. We've been at the Engine, like I said, for coming up to a year. So I can only talk from the facts, from what we've been doing and the great work that we have on the control. So, for example, I am aware that over the last 8 years, the Engine on the 24th of December has been a police station due to fights and security losing control. But yet, our first year here in 2019, we was at full capacity, and we did not have one fight, one argument, or any issues, and resulting that not even one police officer came to us, which shows great evidence that we can control over the reputation that we have taken over from the Engine. The number of visits that we have had during the COVID time from the police, and we get told that these we are getting told that these are happening from all to all pubs. So we can't confirm if it's just us being targeted or if they are going out to other pubs. Obviously, when the police turn up, we do get told that we're here for a licensing check and we're doing other pubs. But I don't know if they're coming out just for here or if they're going out. But obviously, we can all agree that we know the police aren't in this hearing appeal thing. So we obviously we know that they're happy with all our control measures. We do operate strict guidelines due to COVID, and to the point that we are going to be operating very strict guidelines because we are trying to turn the Engine Pub from a drinking pub and a working pub into more of a family friendly and food establishment. On Saturday morning, as in Saturday that's just gone, we had a police officer from the local licensing team attend the event in the afternoon. It was myself that was actually working, and we walked through the pub, and he clearly stated that I'm here to point out if you've got any lack of COVID measures in place. As we walked around, he was happy to state that he saw 7 hand sanitizers located within the property. He was happy to state that we have 3 forms of track and trace systems. He's happy to state that we had a good staffing management system and a one-way system in place. He was also overly excited that we had more CCTV to cover any of our blind spots, and that we're offering out free face masks. Again, this is showing that we have great control and can control what activities we're having. I don't think that bit's irrelevant to this, so I'm going to skip that bit.
I am going to have to do something really awful to you because you were in mid-flow and doing a great job, Dale. Unfortunately, I have got a fire alarm going off in this building, and I've just had the knock on the door from security to tell us that we need to evacuate the building. So I'm going to have to really apologise. I think we need to adjourn the meeting. Could officers help me do this officially, please?
Yes, we'll adjourn the meeting for, let's say, 10 minutes, and I'll keep in contact with the chair. If everyone
Yeah.
else stays in the meeting, chair leaves, and
Yeah.
I will update everyone in 10 minutes.
If you could do so, I've got my phone with me. Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to leave this and then I'll log back in when I can. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
If everybody just wants to pause and we have Mark put up the hold screen, please.
Excuse me.
Wants to turn off their video for now.
It's Richard Thake here. Are the officers still there?
Yes, Councillor
Yes.
Faith. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Since we are essentially adjourned, would it be permissible for me to have a comfort break for a moment?
I think
That
you
would make
put
sense.
10 minutes, I think. So
We
yeah.
have
I
10
don't-
minutes.
If it lasts that long, I should be in dead trouble. I
We'll
meant,
reconvene at 10:40.
okay,
Thank
that's
you,
fine.
Councillor Thake.
In the event that the chairman is unable to continue, bearing in mind if the three remaining members are still here, we could pick this up and somebody else pick up the chair. I assume.
That's what we'll do if Councillor Dennis Hubbard can't come back.
Fine. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I will make sure that I am back in 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Hilary, committee manager. Can the licensing manager please give me a ring? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. That was fun.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Thank you. I am so sorry. That was extremely annoying. Apparently, there's a generator problem. I'm really sorry, Dale, because you were in the middle of dealing with a very mealy-mouthed solicitor's letter and doing a great job of it.
I will, Chair, if it's okay, just do a quick roll call to make sure we have everybody back.
Yes, please.
Everyone could temporarily, hello, turn on their cameras and I'll do the roll call if I think everybody's back now. So Councillor Dennis Harburg.
Present.
Councillor Mike Rice.
Present.
Councillor Richard Thake.
Yeah, I'm present, but I've got a notice up saying I can't start my video because the host has stopped it.
It is working for us, we can see
We
you.
can see you and we can hear you.
Good, right, that's
Sorry,
fine.
we can see you.
I'll just turn.
And
Yeah,
hear you.
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gerald Morris.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Officers Molly Shields.
Yeah, here.
Nurinetta Katavu.
Here.
Shane Crowe.
Yes, I'm here.
Anne Davidson.
Yes, I'm here too.
And Matthew Hepburn.
Yes, here.
And applicant Dale Mabbott.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Great, I think that's everybody. Thank
everyone.
you, Chair.
Okay, shall we pick up where we left off? Okay, right, so before we were very rudely interrupted, the applicant was taking us through his submissions, and I think, had you just finished going through what your solicitor had said in the letter, Dale?
Yeah, so I was about to come on to the other question from Environmental Protection.
Okay.
You're all ready and then... Or...
Yeah, we're ready. If you want to pick back up and we'll continue.
So obviously another question the Environmental Protection states is there is over 80 residential premises which are located within 100 metres of this premises. Obviously I can't confirm or comment on the number of it because I haven't actually gone out there and counted if this number is correct, but working on the assumption that the Environmental Protection Officer states there is 80 houses, but yet there's only 11 sources, 11 different complaints from sources, which the Environmental Protection stated in the first paragraph of her concerns. This works out at only 0.1% of our neighbours are actually making complaints against us. So I ask what, and then again, I ask what this has got to do with this application. That's a comment from the solicitors, by the way. That's why it's a bit good numbers. Next one, Environmental Protection states the council has received complaints about the premises since December last year regarding music, people's noise and antisocial behaviour, including littering and public urination.
Oh, Dale, we got to the end of these ones. You gave us all of the answers and the.
I haven't done these ones.
Are these ones new? Because it sounds similar to what we heard.
These are the questions or the concerns. So the Environmental Protection Officer has stated concerns why she thinks, and obviously we just copied it.
And are these your responses to those concerns that EH has raised?
The fourth one that you raised was the council has received complaints about the premises since December last year regarding music, people's noise and antisocial behaviour, including littering and public urination. But looking at the facts, again, this is an answer from the solicitor. Looking at the facts of where we are located right next to a train station with residential areas. We have also got two hotspots, which are known, which are alleyways by our property, which are very well known for drug dealing and for trouble. But when our neighbours look out their windows, all they will see is the engine, and they will see people arguing or fighting, and straight away think this is coming from us. To protect us from these statements, we have now added more CCTV cameras. We've obviously working with the police on the outside of our property to help clear up any confusion from these statements. And again, I don't see how this has got anything to do with 24 customers sitting on a platform eating. The reason it's 24 is because when we first put in all the paperwork, we did send off all the risk assessments and the weight restrictions and things like that to the Environmental Health Officer. Because again, we had a company that is specially designed to do these platforms to build it. and they supplied all the paperwork, and they've come back saying that during COVID, within the space and the distance, we can only have 24 people up there. Without COVID, the platform can hold 50 people. So we have only put the temporary event notice in for 24 customers. I know on the temporary event notice it states 25. That is because it will be 24 customers and 1 member of staff up there at all times. And then the final question was, the Environmental Protection Officer states, after meetings and telephone conversations, that they do not have the faith in the management of the engine that understands the noise and will be able to prevent public nuisance. All I can answer to this is meetings. We've only had 1 meeting, which was on the 12th of August, and that was when they issued the abatement notice on us. Yes, I will confirm that we have had several telephone conversations about noise, and every time we've ended this, I have re-looked at what we do and try and reduce this number. With that in mind, we have spent loads of money on, soundproofing the garden and putting sound measures up in the garden. But again, having the faith in us is an argument that I think we will have at a later date, because we have proven to show that we are doing what we can. Yes, the environmental officer is right. Personally, I do not have an understanding for noise. This is why we pay contractors to advise us on when we have our events, and these are 2 independent noise teams from 2 different companies monitoring it. We always try for noise levels to not exceed 65 dBA from our edge of our fence. So that's our fence line, with the left-hand side being our property and the right-hand side being an alleyway. Right on that right-hand side of the fence, that's where we monitor the sound level, so we know when it goes into someone's house, it's going to be below the national guidelines. Again, that's advice that I've taken off these people. Again, we have also taken advice, and this was to have a noise survey completed for the property, and we are now in talks with Ross from Roscoe's to carry out a noise survey. Unfortunately, due to COVID, again, there is a delay on this because he is quite busy himself, but he is aiming to get this noise survey done before the 30th of October, I think is the date that we're actually planning on meeting the Environmental Protection Officer to do a noise, I can't remember the word that she said, but a noise test thing. For me to quickly summarise, because obviously a lot of the above is a lot of solicitor talking, so I don't really understand it. But basically for me, my plan is to use this platform for 2 facts for the business. When we have spoken to our solicitors about this, and the Green King and the Green King solicitors, the biggest concerns that we had doing this was the biggest costs, not just for licensing, but also for the structure itself because of maintenance. And we have decided that before we go for a license variation and have this added to our licensable plan, that we will build up facts over this, and the answers we will ask ourselves is, 1, is it worth our costs? Is it worth the cost of the dining? Because that's all we're going to be using it for. So basically that means is, are we going to generate enough income as a business to state that as a dining area is going to work? The other one is obviously for licensing objectives, and the third one is to sustain it as a business ourselves. So our plan is to license the platform via a TENS to build up these facts on the following: to have the proof to take to a license review if we do try and add this to our license. Secondly, for us to use it to see if it's worth an investment for us to go long term, and to use it to see if it actually is going to work for what our business is expecting it to work. So what I mean by that is we're aiming to have this platform as a dining experience, not to have it as like a stage or music or anything like that. So logically, for us to invest the money, we need to know, are we going to make this money back over the course of the time that we're here through food and drinking up there? Obviously, the platform will only be operated during the times of our kitchen. So again, like on the weekends, I know during COVID, the times are 2200, but obviously for a weekend, we can exceed it up to 11 o'clock in the garden. But this is why, again, we've put the times in there, because the times of the platform are only going to be operated during the times of our kitchen opening times, which is 12 o'clock at the beginning of the day when we open until 2100. And this will also be the times that we will be looking at for the licence variation. So what that means is basically it would be like a restaurant inside a pub. When the kitchen closes, the restaurant closes, and it won't be used for the public. We have done everything we can and have done everything we've been asked to by the council to try and help build up a reputation for us. We have been working very closely with the police, as we were aware that the police had a very long history of call outs to this property, and every time we're trying to work with other departments like the environmental health, it's been quite hard to get communication from them. Again, I will stress that this platform is not for any music events or any events whatsoever. And over the next 6 months, the engine is changing its image to be more of a food and restaurant type of pub and not the drinking pub. Over the last 3 months, our kitchen has grown rapidly, with us getting now 5-star reviews online and from our customers who have visited the engine on multiple social media platforms. I do hope that the committee will see this as us taking the best course of action during this unsteady time in business, moving forward and changing our image of the pub. Hopefully, after answering the questions that the Environmental Protection Officer has stated, that it does rest your minds and yours and of the councils for the period of the time that we've asked for this temporary event notice, and changing to make and whilst we're trying to change to make the engine a much more enjoyable property for families during this time, during these hard times for everyone. I'd also like to point out that whilst we have been working with the police over the last year since taking over the pub, and them actually coming out and doing these checks, that I can confirm that the only licensing, or I can't say licensing, department, I'm going to say department, the only members of the departments that have actually come out on checks to this is, I can confirm the Environmental Health Officer did come out to check the platform to see if it was worthy enough to be used for public use. I can also confirm that the police have come out and we actually went up on the platform and showed the police of what the plan is going to be going forward. The whole of the structure has been a proven, okay, I don't know that word, the sisters changed it, a proven structure from a company called Leia, who supply these all over the world. Risk assessments and all relevant paperwork has been supplied to the Environmental Health Officer. And the rest of it is just basically saying that I hope everything that I've told you is more than accurate. And that's me done. Anyone got any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. You can say that if you want, but I'll ask them because they've got to come in a specific order for procedure.
Oh, sorry.
No, I think you did very well with that, because it sounds like quite a technical letter, and definitely disruptions my end haven't helped you. So well done, and thank you for your patience on that. Okay, so I need to ask, do we have any questions from the Environmental Protection Officers for Mr. Maybert?
No, I don't think so at the moment. I have got some comments. We are aware that we did have meetings with Environmental Protection in March about the noise. There were meetings with the commercial team about COVID in July, and at that time the noise was sufficiently loud that the Environmental Health Officer, who was present on site, had to ask Mr. Maybert to turn the music down. And there have been 3 long detailed telephone conversations with Environmental Protection to discuss the noise and what can be done to improve things. So just wanted to make those comments.
That's fine, and I'm sure we'll hear further in submissions anyway. Okay, if we have, I don't think, do we have any other questions from relevant authorities? No.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yes, please. Yes, go on then. Yes, I can't see a name because the
Hello,
title's-
Shane Crowe from Environmental Health as well.
Hi, Shane. Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to ask Mr. Bamhurst about the platform, and when the people are using the platform and dining, how would they facilitate using the lavatories? So accessing and egressing from the platform.
Sorry, you asking me or someone else?
Yes, you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name you was asking. Well, obviously there is access up and down the platform that meets obviously the standards of the environmental health officer and public regulations of building control, which I think, again, I'm not a building control officer, but I believe it's regulation K. I don't know.
I'm not bothered about that. What I'm trying to ascertain is how would they get to the platform and how would they get off the platform?
Through meeting the regulations of building control and K, there is a set of stairs.
Are you asking this in a sort of COVID type one-way system sort of way, Shane, or is it just?
I just want to know how you access the platform. There's a platform on the first level, as I understand. I presume they access through a staircase.
Yes, that's part of. So under building regulations, there's a staircase which has to be on the platform.
Okay. So where is the staircase in relation to the platform?
On the. Have you not seen the
premises?
Where is it? It's in our property, in our garden. So I don't understand the question.
Okay.
Like,
so I come into your premises. I go in the front door. Do I?
Yeah.
How do I then gain access to the platform?
Right. Okay. I think I understand it now. So I'll talk you through the whole process. So you come in through the front door. Obviously, you get stopped. You'll go through the track and trace methods, and then the staff member that is welcoming you at the door, or security if we're on the weekends, will then take you via the pub, via the circuit that we have here. Then,
but can you just explain the circuit, how you get there?
It's hard to explain it because I'm trying to describe a painting in your. For the structure, this is something that we did supply the information to the environmental health officer. So on there is the diagrams and pictures of how it is set up and how it looks. So obviously, once you walk through the property, you're going into our back garden, and then around the garden, we've obviously built up the fences. We've got a permanent stretch tent in, and then the staircase is by our stretch tent. So you would be in the garden and then go up through the stretch tent and then up the stairs.
How do you get out of your premises into the garden?
If it might assist, I think that we do have I can see Molly's hand as well. I think we have also been sent a plan of the premises, and that'll indicate to us a bit more clearly. It'll help, because I feel like Dale's trying to explain it, but he's got his picture in his mind and it's not quite translating through to the words. So do you want to park this?
I was just going to say, if we do want to look at the plan is what is attached to the current licence. Obviously, the platform doesn't form part of the licence at the moment, so it's not detailed on there. But if we need to go with this any further, it might be easier if Mr. Maybuck can see it and talk you through sort of the location of the plan and
how can we access that, Molly? Sorry.
I think Matthew or Anna, I sent it through on an email to you. Is there any way you can share the screen on that?
I have it. I'm just bringing it up on the screen now. Just give me 1 minute. Thank you.
If you can bring that up, and then Dale, if you could maybe sort of explain that sort of customer journey to get through and up onto the platform based on that plan, and that might assist Shane.
I think I understand what are you asking? Sorry, I didn't catch your name. What was?
Shane, Mr. Babbitt.
Hi.
Remember we met in March?
Yeah, I know. I met loads of people in July and March with everything, but that was all because I know you was all out checking other pubs. But do you think that this platform is currently a permanent structure to the property as it is now, or are you under the impression that it is still a temporary structure? And it can.
I'm just trying to ascertain how people access the platform. So right. I've got.
You all see my mind. Or is it just me that can see this?
Yeah. So the plan is now on the screen. If you could sort of indicate to us, obviously, where the platform's going to be, and then talk Shane through the concerns. This might be more helpful to us.
Can you see my mouse moving? Can anyone see my mouse?
We won't see your mouse because the screen that's being shared is Anna's. Okay, but if you could sort of like pick a landmark on there that you might recognize.
If you start at the property, let's pick a landmark. At the bottom, obviously this is quite an old map. At the bottom, you've got the playground. Can you see it? Yeah, there. And then on the right-hand side, you've got that line. Move the map. Yeah, there. Right. So that beside that is a public footpath. So, and then next to the public footpath is that main road that I was explaining. So if we walk up that public path now, all the way up to the front doors, keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going there. So at that point, that's where our customers will come in. So when they come in, they will get asked if they would like to sit inside, outside. Obviously, if they try and go, oh, we'd like to sit on the platform, unless they booked it, they won't be able to get up there. It is only bookings only. So we for this talk through, I'm going to explain it as if I'm now talking to the person that is booked to sit up there.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we'll come in. You'll have, as you walk through the door, you'll get stopped there. Come back. You've gone too far now. You'll get stopped there. And that point there, you'll get told about the track and trace. You'll get told about our rules within the property and where we stand with these rules. Okay. This will either be done by a member of staff on a weekday, or if it's on a weekend, it will be told by security. From that point, if you'd like to be sat inside, obviously you'd go anywhere which is inside, but you're going to say you're sitting outside on the platform. So we're going to walk out and slightly go down towards the left. See where all the multiple doors are? Keep going left and come all the way down. So you're walking past all the booths. That's an open area. Stop there. So this actual, are you outside or are you still inside?
Still inside.
I think that's still inside, isn't it? This plan is not actually there, because behind at the right hand side where you've got booths there, they're actually toilets. No, you've come outside. Go further up right there. So there is, where that mouse is, there's actually a set of double doors there. And if you come a bit to the right, a bit further down, there's actually another door there as well. We also have two doors, one from the public footpath, which is further on down here. You can see it, but that's not showing it. It's actually showing as a toilet. No, a bit more down, up, there. So there is actually another door, but that's still showing as a toilet, which isn't there. So they'll come through these doors. Now, this bit here between the red line and where it says external area is our where our one-way system is all implemented. From that, once you go outside, it's quite a large area where we've actually done the tables at 2.5 meters apart to allow people to move around that area. But then when they're coming into this, they have to follow our diagrams around the pub, which there is loads of signs up and arrows pointing people in directions, and which doors are exits and which doors are entrances. So anyway, as you come through out of the external area, you've got a door like that little triangle thing sitting there. That's one entrance to the garden, and you see like the little upside down L shape. That's actually in a perfect position because that's where the staircase is, right? So the staircase comes down that way, but the garden fence has actually been extended up to, if you go slightly to your right, you see the door? Go right. The door to the car park there. So our fence has actually been extended up to that point there and has been made higher. But the staircase will then come down that way. And then you see this red square from where that door is. If you picture like, I think it's 5 meters by 4 meters, or it's 4 meters by 5 meters. I don't know which way it is, but basically on that square bit there, that's where the platform is. And then the staircase comes off and it goes down. And then this whole area from the corner of the staircase. So if you move your mouse slightly to the left, no, down, yeah, keep going left. So there, from that point there, our stretch 10, which we've had permanently go in, goes from there all the way down to where it says playground. So all of that cover there is undercover, and that's where we've moved it. We moved it there because of the noise. So it's actually that's part of one of the measures that we've done to help reduce noise traveling so far. So that's again, it's hard to explain it because you ain't got a map. Like an up-to-date map, sorry, but that's where the staircase is there. Now from there, if you go a bit further up, I think the staircase comes out about 8 meters, but if you go a bit further up, you see the line that comes down and you've got a slight little there. there is actually an exit gate as well. So that you've got your one way in, but then they've also got their exit out into the car park. But that exit is also, it's double gates, if that makes sense. They can go through them double gates. And then, yeah, you just come around. Obviously, they have no reasons to come inside. They have no, because obviously everything's done via an app or table service. For the toilets, because I believe you asked about toilets, if you go back to the doors by the booths, so this is where our one-way system is now being implemented. So you would come through that little square where the triangle is, and at that point you would then walk through here. Now under here we've got barriers that are up permanently at the moment. So you would either, for you to go back in, you would go to the right-hand side of these barriers, and this barrier would then walk you all the way up to where that door is by the old toilet, where the old toilet, keep going up, keep going, stop there, come down, as in right. Yeah, right, that way. So you would then come in on that side where you can see that these are the toilets that are actually currently in the property at the moment. All right. When you go into these toilets, you will then come out of the toilets and then see the door just at the top of the mouse. You'd go through that door and then back out your double doors to come back out on the left-hand side of these barriers to bring you back into our garden. Does that explain your... It's quite, I think if you want to see it, you're more than welcome to come down. But like I said, this is stuff that we've shown to the police and they've said that we've gone above and beyond our control measures.
But I think you've done well again. That was really difficult. So well done. Are you all right with that, Shane?
Yeah, thank you very much for explaining. It does show, obviously, the plan is completely out of date and should be an up-to-date plan. But that's another issue. So really what you're telling me is that people will come in, they'll go out of the doors at the back, they'll walk up to the platform, and then when they want to go to the toilet, they come back down the platform through that single door at the side to the toilet and back out.
Yes, but that from the patio where it says external areas, all right, from there, this is all a one-way system because of the setup of the garden and how huge our garden is. We've managed to let, because obviously we've got people out there all the time telling people you can't table. We've got like COVID police out. Like we've got 2 members of staff that are constantly out and about, you know, stopping customers, because for us we're trying to educate people. So we have 2 members of staff that are out there. So if we've got people that are mixing or on more than tables of 6s, or they're coming closer, we will step in and break it apart. So because the garden's such a huge area, we can actually do that inside the garden. For the inside of the property, to give you an example, before the government put in the 10 p.m. curfew, we was actually closing at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay, I can see Molly's hand quickly.
Chair, I hope you don't mind me interrupting. Whilst this is very helpful to understand all the safety measures that are in place, obviously this hearing is relating to sort of the public nuisance rather than the safety aspect that, you know, following the COVID guidelines. And I'm just sort of conscious of time and how much time we spent on this. And I hope you don't see that as being rude, but I just wanted to say that if we can get back onto the public nuisance aspect of it, I think that would be good.
No, I agree. I think that's very helpful. And I think Shane's managed to extract some useful information for a different area. If we could exit the shared screen, that would be helpful for me, Anna. Thank you. Okay, lovely. So do we have any further questions from relevant authorities on the nuisance angle? If not, I can see, oh, hang on. Is that a environmental protection hand from previously or for now? Is for now. All right then. I know Councillor Rice is itching to get in, but we'll finish with you first.
Okay then, Mr. Mabbott. You've enlightened a little bit about the measures that you're going to put in to control the noise. Can you just elaborate on the aspects that you will be implementing in the premises to control the noise from that particular platform?
Yeah, I can, but again, this is going into a lot of what we've been saying. For us to try and build a pattern and for us to actually work out on noise, we're sort of stabbing into the dark here, because the platform has a 360, well, not 360, because obviously the back of the property is the pub, but if you picture a 180-degree angle from standing on the platform, we don't know where we're getting the most amount of complaints, because when we're trying to communicate with the council, we're just getting told you've had noise complaints. We've not been given any evidence. And again, we've been asking for this constantly. Even when we got issued the abatement notice, we asked on what grounds, where have you got these complaints from? And all we got told was we've heard it. So again,
Mr. Mabber, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you just ask the question?
That's
please?
what I'm asking it, but I'm getting to it. So what I'm going to state is obviously the measures that we put in place at the moment is based on what we believe is where the complaints are coming from. So if you picture standing on the marquee, first of all, there is no music up there. Second of all, there is no electronic stuff up there. The only stuff that's up there that is electronically is lights and safety equipment. So like, there's no way that customers can plug in phones or try and do music. So there is no music whatsoever or anything coming from there. So the only noise that's going to come from there is from the customers. Okay. Now, if you remember in the 10s, we've put down that there was going to only be 24 customers up there plus one member of staff. Now, during the weekday, that member of staff will be either a manager or a senior staff member. During the weekend, that member of staff will be swapped to a security officer. So if you're asking about noise as in generated from people, it'd be the same rules that we're putting in place at the moment, like when we don't have events on and we've got people sitting in our garden at the moment eating food, because obviously we've got heaters under our stretch tents. So it's a hard one, because you're saying that we're getting all these noise complaints because of our events. So we're going towards the food and restaurant, which then we're not getting told, are we getting any complaints through noise on when we don't have anything in? So if we're not getting any complaints when we've got no events on, then surely we won't have any complaints through having people up there eating food. And we've got staff up there controlling it. The same measures that we're putting on downstairs.
Okay, I'm hearing what Mr. Mabbutt's saying, and I can anticipate further lines of questioning along this theme, and I don't think that we're going to get anywhere by it. So I'm going to cut it off at that point, Shane, if that's okay.
Okay, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
In terms of the premises in general, do you have music inside the premises between the hours of 12 and 9:30?
I'm going to say yeah and no, because it all depends on what's on. So we do have background noise, and that is all controlled via our sound system out the back, which is now being locked. So what it means is if you come, it's like we've got it on now. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's actually on. That's how loud it is. There's no way of you turning that up. The reason I say yes and no is because obviously you've just stipulated music again. If the question was, are you going to have noise from recorded devices? The answer would be yes, because we would have our tellies on, or we would have background music from the jukeboxes. So that's why I said yes and no, because noise, music, no. At the moment, you've got music on now, but if I be quiet, I don't know if you can hear it, but that is
Okay.
very, very backgroundish talk, so that you can sit here, someone can sit and we can still talk, because that's what the guidelines state, is that you can't have it too loud where people are talking over you.
Could you have entertainment in the premises during that time?
We've banned all entertainment inside.
Okay, all right then. Thank you.
That's only during the COVID measures, because our inside is not. To give you an idea, our capacity is 108 across the whole of the property. It might sound a lot, but if you think you've got 20 tables, that's already 120. The reason it's 108 and a bit of an odd number is because we have got tables of 4.
You're okay, Mr. Mabbutt. You don't need to justify this. You're okay.
Is in most of our tables are in the garden, so our capacity inside is only 30, and that's why we're trying to use as much of the outside space as possible, and why we put covers up.
Okay, lovely. Right, so I feel that the questions from relevant authorities have been pretty much asked so far as we can ask them at this time. I shall ask the panel if we have any questions for Mr. Mabbutt. Councillor Rice, did you want to kick off?
I did while things were going on, but I think my list of questions have all been answered, to be quite truthful. I think Dale has explained himself extremely well. We're only discussing what's going to happen on this platform. We're not discussing what happens in the pub itself, because that's already covered by licensing anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, I've heard everything I need to hear reference this application.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Thake, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, Madam Chairman. I think, like Councillor Rice, I clearly understand from the licensing officer that essentially we are not looking at a historical situation here. We are looking at an application to deal for a period of less than 1 month as essentially a trial. But in the event that the applicant wishes to come back to extend that, that will be subject of a second and further hearing. So I have no questions. I think I fully understand where we are and have listened to what has gone on and read all the relevant documents and understand where I am too.
Excellent. That's very helpful. And I have no further questions. I think we're looking at a moderately narrow issue focusing on the nuisance aspect linked to the platform and the fact that it's a temporary event notice. And I've heard quite a lot from Mr. Mabbott and environmental protection officers around various issues that may or may not be relevant to this application. So I've got no questions for you at the moment, Dale. So that concludes sort of your part of the hearing for this point in time. The next thing that we need to do now is hear from our responsible authority. So that will be from environmental health, environmental protection officers. Do you have your submissions, and would you like to take us through those, please?
Yeah. My position on this is that we have had a very large number of complaints about the engine since Mr. Mabbott. Excuse me, can I just check, is your name pronounced Mabbott or Mabbott?
Mabbott.
Mabbott, sorry, apologies. Since Mr. Mabbott took over the position of licensee at the pub, it is extremely unusual to get the number of complaints that we have had about this premises. In most cases, even if we've had something like a rave where there's thousands and thousands of people, to get something as large as 20 different complainants is extraordinarily unusual. This is, I mean, he's saying this is a small percentage of the number of people living in the area, but people generally do not complain because they don't want to make a fuss. Some people just accept it as part of normal life. It is very unusual to get this number of complaints. The reason why we put in the objection to the 10 is because the experience that we've had is that there have been several meetings with environmental health and several phone calls with environmental health. A lot of officer time has been spent explaining to Mr. Mabbott that noise measurement is not the way that you assess whether or not something is causing a nuisance. This is done through listening and through, is this going to be heard at the curtilage of other premises nearby. We are in a position where we feel that the time that we've expended trying to explain this, we really don't feel that our points have been taken on board by Mr. Mabbott. We feel that there is are still questions to be answered about how this premises is being controlled and managed. We understand that this is only supposed to be used for dining, but the noise abatement notice that was served on the premises does relate to noise from voices as well as noise from music. And we have not heard any submissions from Mr. Mabbott about how control is going to be taken over the noise from people entering and exiting the platform, and from people using the platform. And, you know, for all we know, you know, people are going to have birthday parties up there. What is going to be done about people deciding that they're going to burst into song? There's nothing that he said that confirms whether or not he's got mechanisms for stopping this sort of noise from happening, which is why we felt that this needed a hearing to be discussed. We also have concerns that Mr. Maybert has not always followed proper procedure. In the first instance, this platform was put into place, and our environmental health officer from our commercial team had to serve enforcement action on the platform because it was unsafe. And then Mr. Maybert had to carry out further work to make the platform safe before it was even possible to use it. So, you know, we have little confidence in his ability to manage safely people using these external areas of the pub to prevent nuisance when there is such a large number of complaints. They have come from every direction around the pub. It is not just one direction. We have many complaints. We have them from multiple locations, but obviously it is not the case that I can't give you addresses, because people have the right to confidentiality when making a complaint about noise to the council. So it's basically a case of if we have the evidence to show that people can be controlled safely, accessing the platform, leaving the platform, going to and fro into the pub with the doors opening and closing. If there's no events going on inside the pub that are going to cause release of music, then obviously that does reduce the risk. That is reassuring. But basically, I think that we needed to talk this through so that we could be clear what control measures were in place to prevent further escalation of the noise that has been a very significant problem this year. I think that's all I really need to say. It's not a complicated issue. Mr. Maybert has made it a complicated issue by referring to sound levels all the time, and in view of the fact that he's referring to 65 dB, I have had a long discussion with him. He does not understand what these sound levels mean. He doesn't even know what the metric is that he's measuring them by, and therefore it's totally irrelevant what the dB is. What is relevant is what you can hear from the curtilage of the building in all directions, how loud it is to people living in nearby properties. So you just need to walk around and listen. If you can hear it, it's too loud. We've told him this many times. I've told him this. Shane Crowe has told him this. My colleague Rebecca Clark, who also works in environmental protection, has told him this. But the message doesn't seem to be getting through. So I think that's probably all I really need to say for now. And so that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end that, actually. Now, this is the point where Mr. Maybert has the opportunity to ask questions of environmental protection. I was watching your face during that submission, and I could see some of the reactions and understand your feelings. So what I will ask you at this point is if you could try and park that sort of gut reaction and the emotional response to what you've heard, and just try and focus on questions of fact when you're asking questions about the submissions that we've had from environmental protection. Okay?
Yeah. Is this where I'm allowed to talk now?
Yeah. Talk in the sense of you may ask a question of fact. So if environmental health have said X and you would like to know more about it, ask a question.
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously, the questions I'm going to ask are the ones that my solicitors asked me to ask in case we knew that this question was going to come up. I understand that obviously you can't give out information on personal addresses and that because of GDPR, but yet we have been asking for evidence constantly, not just myself, but also the solicitor. I'll finish because it's the question, and I haven't worded the question, they have. and so is the solicitors. So the question that's being asked is, is there any way during this process here that we can get the evidence provided of all the complaints that have been raised since that they've come up during the abatement notice and prior to the abatement notice from the dates
Right.
that the environmental health
Okay, I can see where your solicitors are going with this, and I think I'm going to say park everything that they've put in that letter, because this is not an interrogation of past events and dealings with environmental health and understanding that. What we are restricted to as a committee is looking at this question of public nuisance around the temporary event notice for these dates in October that you're asking us to consider allowing. So if we can limit the questions to that field, I did allow some leniency to environmental protection officers and some leniency to you in your opening so that we could understand the bigger picture and the context around things. But I do not want this licensing hearing to turn into dispute resolution between Green King and NHDC Environmental Protection. That's not what we're here for.
No. Okay? So if that's the case, then why is the abatement notice being brought up constantly in this TENS?
That's been raised as background and factual questioning, but it's not actually something that's going to be necessarily directly relevant to the decision that we reach. The question we're considering is, does this pose a public nuisance? Licensing is primarily a permissive regime. You'll know this, Mr. Maybert. So what we're assessing is whether or not this sort of nuisance objection has legs, has grounds. Is that on its own sufficient to stop your temporary event notice? That's the only question that this panel is going to have in its mind. All of this stuff about environmental health says this, Green King and Mr. Maybert and his solicitors say that. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to hear it. Okay.
What the question that I do have is, again, after stating that you are correct in, I do not understand music noise levels, and as much as we have conversations on the telephone, I will explain it as to what I've been told from professionals. And when I mean professionals, I mean people that have got higher qualifications than we can think of in the music industry. Now, with that, I have shown that I've worked to prove, I can't get words out. I have shown that I've obviously tried my best to understand everything, but yet I do have contractors coming in. So why do you keep bringing up the fact that it's I don't have an understanding when I have a professional person advising me? Would that question go towards them?
That's kind of in the right ballpark for questioning for the issue that we're considering. I'm going to take some of the venom away, and I understand why it's there, because there was a little bit of venom from the other side during submissions. And anyone who knows me will have seen I did pull a face at that particular point in time. Mr. Maybert is a layperson. He is clearly not an expert in terms of decibels, and like any reasonable layperson in his position, he will rely upon expert advice he's given. Okay, so I don't think him doing that is inherently unreasonable, and I do not think that he should be criticised by us for doing so. The question we need to consider is whether or not he's sort of applying common sense, taking the technical advice and looking at this platform area, and if he's taking sufficient steps and precautions to put in place sound barriers and ways to reduce the risk of nuisance. And it's a question of, does he appreciate that there is a risk of nuisance there? And if so, what measures are being taken around that? Yeah, okay, good. So I think the question from that to environmental protection would be, are you satisfied that he has that awareness and ability in order to effectively deal with and limit the risk of public nuisance in respect of this application? I'm going to leave that to environmental protection to answer, and Mr. Maybert, hear the answer for me, please.
Describing it.
What I would say to that is not very satisfied, because as I was not, and if Mr. Maybert believed that I was, then apologies, that was not my intent. My intent in bringing up the point that Mr. Maybert keeps coming back to sound levels is that various professionals in environmental health who understand nuisance have given Mr. Maybert advice, and the advice we have given him is that he needs to walk around the premises and listen to see whether he could hear noise escaping that would affect people on the other side of the road, around the corner, in various addresses that are very close by to the pub. I'm not trying to be negative about the way that he is trying to manage the noise. I just think he's overcomplicating the issue. The issue is the noise escaping, and what control mechanisms are you putting in place to prevent the noise escaping? We have still not heard anything about what he's doing to prevent the sound from voices, from people talking, shouting, getting excited because they're having a fun time up on the platform, from the sound of people upping and downing the stairs, which are external stairs. People will hear it. It is very close to other premises nearby. There are a lot of residential premises even just over the road. So I hope that answers your question. I don't really feel that sufficient information's come forward to him to show that he understands what steps he needs to take to prevent this being a problem.
Okay, I think we should leave that particular sort of line of questioning between you both at that point. I think that clarifies and does a concluding comment on the situation. Did you have any sort of other questions for environmental protection based on the submissions in keeping it on the nuisance issue, Mr. Maybert?
No, apart from the final question, obviously, for what she just said is obviously people making noise through shouting and things like that. But obviously, I don't know how to word this question now.
You put some words, and if it needs changing, I'll help you.
You're pretty good at that. The government guidelines state that obviously people aren't allowed to shout, people are not allowed to sing and things like that, and we're already enforcing it at ground level. So what makes you believe that we're not going to be able to enforce that on this platform when currently at the moment on facts, you're only getting complaints when we're having events, but when we're still trading like today, and we have done previously, and we have got tables that are actually a lot closer to the neighbours, but you're not getting complaints from them. So what makes you think that we're gonna allow people to shout and scream and sing up there when we're enforcing it on ground level? Why do you believe that we're not going to enforce it on that level?
I feel that this is going to be a very similar answer to what we've previously heard. Essentially, it goes back to this question of trust and confidence between environmental protection and you, and essentially environmental protection feeling that perhaps there might not be sufficient appreciation of how you can understand and check that there is noise nuisance there in the first place. And that is something that might be relevant to our considerations, but it's not something that I feel that I want to get in the middle of trying to resolve. That's a separate issue for you guys to work together with offline if you're looking at longer term solutions and support for the pub. Okay?
Fine, I'm happy with that.
Molly's pulling a face. No, that's not a face. Okay, very good. Okie dokie. Anne, I've got a little blue hand up for you. Is that a legacy hand? It's for now.
Yes, it's for now. I just wanted to say to Mr. Mabbott, if what he's saying is that the control measures he's got with the members of staff that he's got on the ground floor are also going to be in place on the platform in terms of making sure that people are keeping it down, that is part of what he needs to tell us, to say, yes, we are controlling this and this is what we're doing. The difference between the platform and the ground floor is of course the fact that it's at first floor level. That means that noise is not controlled by a fence or other barrier, which it would be in the garden. I will, as you say, Councillor Dennis, leave it there. I'm not going to take it any further, but just a few little clarifications there. And it is obviously your decision as to whether you feel that this is sufficiently different from the noise events, music events that are happening, for you to view it differently. That's fine.
Lovely. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave the questions from the applicants to environmental protection there and move to members of the panel who may have questions for our environmental protection and environmental health officers. I can see Councillor Thake has indicated. Would you like to ask a question?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'll find out how I take my hand down in a minute. But essentially, I'm very glad to receive the direction that you gave from the chair in respect of the line of questioning and answers that were going on here, which I think were clearly, shall we say, diverting from the actual content of what we're looking at here today. But I have to say, and I think I would feel very uncomfortable if I didn't say it. People living near any form of business premises know and understand that there will be an impact from those business premises. The question, of course, is whether or not the impact is an acceptable one in terms of them being able to enjoy what they legally are entitled to, that is the occupation, peaceful occupation of their own premises. So it's a question of degree here. I haven't heard any, and again, I'm going off piste here slightly, but I haven't heard any evidence clearly, and I understand why, as to whether any work has been done by environmental protection around trying to link the claim that Mr. Maybert made in terms of the fact that these complaints arose as a result of events. We haven't had any evidence to that effect, so we don't know what level of complaints there have been in respect of the normal running of that business, that is a non-event type daily running of that business. We've got no evidence about that, and therefore I don't think we can carry on with that line of questioning. So I really am grateful to you for your direction on it. I needed to make that point, Madam Chairman, so that everybody here understood that we have been listening avidly to this and see that there are difficulties and have been difficulties. These are difficulties that need to be resolved outside of this meeting, Madam Chairman. That's really all I want to say. It's more of a statement than a question, to be honest with you, but I think it had to be said.
It did, and you said so very gracefully and elegantly, Councillor Fake. Thank you very much.
That's what I was trying to say, but thank you. You worded it very well.
All right, then. Now, I personally do not have any questions. I think I've indicated that this is a relatively simple and straightforward question for us to decide, and we've heard what the evidence from both sides on that is. Before I move us to the next stage, Councillor Rice, have you got any questions for the relevant authorities?
No, Chair, no. I'm satisfied. They've done their normal, wonderful job.
No, don't tell them that. They'll get far too confident with themselves.
It's merely that we don't want the job ourselves, Madam Chairman. You know, we're just building you up so that you are the automatic choice.
I think that this is being broadcast live on YouTube, so if I could remind everyone to please behave themselves, that would be helpful. Lovely. Okay, so we've heard from the applicant and we've heard from the relevant authorities in the sense of their existence in the form of our environmental health and protection teams. I have got the standard entry that we may ask questions of Herts Constabulary. I don't think that they're relevant to this hearing, so they shouldn't be on my procedure form. So the next stage then is for us to put teeth back in. The next stage is for us to hear the closing statements from the parties, and we will kick off with the licensing officer's closing statement, please.
Thank you, Chair. So it's just to clarify a few things. So the first point to clarify is that Mr. Maybert raised the reference to the application being an event is because he has applied for a temporary event notice, a 10. The legislation defines it as an event, and he has explained to you his intention if the 10 is granted. As Mr. Maybert has also raised the regular licensing visits by the police, the subcommittee may wish to consider the reasons why regular visits are taking place. The licensing authority work in conjunction with the police and have shared the information that numerous complaints have been received. Mr. Maybert has placed considerable weight on the compliance with COVID-19 regulations. However, the objection in relation to this matter is that of public nuisance, not public safety. So also just to remind the subcommittee that an abatement notice has been served on the premises and it is a separate matter and should be considered as only as a matter of fact and not for your consideration. Your determination today should be whether or not you believe the additional raised outdoor area can be sufficiently managed to prevent public nuisance or likely public nuisance. As the 10 is to run concurrently with an existing premises licence, it would be appropriate for the subcommittee to consider the impact of the 10 in addition to the impact of the existing premises licence. Finally, Ordinarily, there would be a right to appeal for all parties to the Magistrates' Court. However, the regulations prevent an appeal being heard less than 5 days prior to the event. Therefore, an appeal will not be possible against today's decision. And that's all from me.
Wow, lovely. Thank you very much for that. In that case, could I please ask for the closing statements from the relevant authorities, i.e. environmental protection / health?
Thank you. My closing comments are that the things that need to be borne in mind are the unusually large amounts of complaints from all around the neighbourhood of the engine. But I will be quite open with you that these complaints have largely been related to events going on in the gardens of the engine. That's something that you may wish to take into consideration when you make the decision on the platform use. The other matter that you may wish to take into consideration is the fact that we have had mixed success with regards to being sure about how things are being implemented. We've been told things before in the past that sometimes have been implemented and sometimes have been not by Mr. Maybert. So it's entirely your decision, and it is for a short period of time. You may decide that that is appropriate in this case. You may decide that the number of complaints that have been forthcoming over this year are too high for you to wish to take that risk. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much for that. And finally, if I could ask Mr. Maybert for his closing submissions.
Yeah, the only thing I can state is obviously during the point that it was first raised to us in December, we obviously tried working with this quite consecutively and to make sure that we were still operating as a business. Now, when we got forced closed by the government through the lockdown, we took that as an advantage for us to actually do all our plans in the garden to try and, you know, like when we had no members of the public in, so we can get all the contractors in. We have made huge amounts of changes within the gardens, and they are happening every week. Every time we talk to different professionals and contractors, we are coming up with different ideas. But the only thing I can now state on this is it is now getting quite costly. Like we've invested nearly £30,000 in the garden to try and limit these complaints. And again, I've asked the environmental protection team to actually come out and go, right, yes, that works, that doesn't, let's look at it. And the only date that I've now been given was Friday the 30th, where I've actually stopped any more soundproofing in the garden until we've spoken to the environmental protection team to find out if the measures that we have put in place are now going to be justified to say that we are actually carrying out as much due diligence as possible to state that is this complaint that they're receiving fair or an attack against a hospitality property, if that makes sense. So until that day, we are not obviously spending any more money. Based on Friday, I believe it's Friday the 30th, I think it's Friday. When they come out on that day, then yes, we will be talking to them and taking more reasonable steps going forward. But like I said, there is 4 types of events that we have now banned, and they will not be happening here. And that has been based on us talking to the council and the council saying, Dale, we've had complaints this weekend because of this, this and this. And straight away, we will stop these events until we can get this nailed down. Other than that, sound systems in the garden have actually been turned down dramatically low. And we do close our garden a little bit earlier. We try and move as many people towards the centralized areas, if that makes sense, where we've got barriers up and things like that. So when it comes, I know we have the curfew in place, but this is obviously, if the curfew gets lifted tomorrow, we'll still have these measures in place where we'll close the garden and getting people in around these sound perimeter areas to try and, we're trying to put the message out to the public that we can, our license allows us to go till 10:30, I think it is, on the weekend with music. But every time we've done an event, out of respect for the neighbours, we've always stopped it at 9:30, and we've always made sure our property is cleared by that time as well. So that there is us trying to say to the public, we're working with you, but we need you to communicate with us. And I think that is the key to all of this, is communication, and we're all singing on the same song sheet. That's the only thing I can say. And I can't really comment on it until we actually meet with environmental protection and go through everything with them and do sound readers and sound propagation tests. Like I've said, we've gone out, got independent contractors in doing the sound monitoring. We've gone out off the advice that we needed a sound survey done. We've gone out and looked into that. We've got it done. We're just waiting for it to be actioned. So on that measure there, if the council or environmental protection are advising us to do something, as a business, our intentions are not to look at short term, to look at long term. We want to be here as long as possible. We want to stay successful as long as possible. And I think during these uncertain times, that this is the time that we all need to come together and actually work as a team to try and save hospitality, pubs, restaurants and things like that. And that's what we're doing. We are moving away from being a pub and we are moving more towards restaurants. We have found out that GP is a lot better in food. So that's why we're now trying to promote more food than music events, if that makes sense. Other than that, I've got nothing else to add.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that. And finally, before the panel retires to consider its decision, could I ask for the legal officer to summarise any legal points that have arisen during the hearing today?
Apologies, sorry, my
That's okay, you're fine, take your time.
Sorry, no. Okay, so ultimately, I won't repeat more of what Molly said about what the tender is actually proposing to do. It is limited for a 7-day period as per the application. That's the maximum period that it's allowed in any one application. So your time period is limited. I think that was a question that Councillor Thake had asked to begin with. Regarding the objection, this has come about because of environmental protection. So the only issue that we're looking at is the public nuisance and the licensing objectives, and that's the issue that we'll be concentrating on when we go into deliberations. Your options are to either approve or refuse. There will be no conditions. This is not linked to the substantive license of the full property, just in relation to the platform. And what you're being asked to look at today is just whether or not you feel, having the evidence from the applicant and having the evidence from environmental protection because of their objection, whether you are satisfied one way or the other that there's enough evidence for you to decide if there is a public nuisance or not, and if that has an impact on whether or not to approve the license for a temporary time of 7 days. Are there any questions?
That's my line. Yeah. Yes, so the subcommittee may choose to ask the legal officer any questions, any points of clarity before we retire. I see Councillor Thake is shaking his head vigorously and Mike Grice is shaking his head less so. And I have no questions. Therefore, I will find the right point on my newfangled script that tells me how we move to our deliberations in these fun and wonderful digital times. I think I need to ask one of my officers to close that for me. We're ready, Anna. Could you take us out?
Thank you, Chair. I will just explain the next part of the process, following which the IT and infrastructure manager will move the panel to a breakout room to make their decision. The subcommittee will now be retiring to make a decision in private. Those viewing the meeting are welcome to wait to listen to the decision. However, this may take some time. Once the subcommittee has made its decision, this will be announced via the live stream. As announced at the beginning of the meeting, if members believe the decision will take too long, to avoid parties waiting, they may decide not to announce the decision live today. If this is the case, an announcement will be made to this effect by the subcommittee and the meeting will be closed. The decision would then be announced in writing within 5 working days of the meeting. So if the IT network and infrastructure manager could please place the panel in the breakout room. Thank you.
Okay, I'll place everyone in the breakout room automatically now. And if others could mute their microphones and turn their cameras off for me while we're in the breakout room.
Chairman, I'm leaving the meeting now.
Thanks, Councillor Morris.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Morris, goodbye.
Okay, bye.
All right then. I don't know if Anna's going to want to do some officering and corrallers and starters back off.
Yes, please, Chair. If everyone's now back, I think I can see everybody. I'll just take the roll call one last time before you announce the decision. Councillor Elizabeth Dennis-Harburg.
Present.
Councillor Richard Thake.
Present.
Councillor Mike Rice. I can see you're there. I think you're muted, sorry.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Gerald Morris left. He advised that he was leaving when the subcommittee retired. Officers, Molly Shields.
Here.
Nuanetta Katavu.
Here.
Jane Crow.
I'm here too.
And Anne Davidson. Anne, could you just unmute and confirm you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And the applicant, Dale Maybert.
I'm muted. Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you. I can hear you. That's everyone as expected. Over to you, Chair, to announce the decision. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that. Thank you everyone for your patience while we were considering our decision, and also for the very fun new addition to the Zoom bingo card of fire alarm goes off during a hearing. Right, so while we were away, the panels considered the issues in this application and we've reached a decision. The date of the hearing, I'm going to read the decision out and it will obviously be published and available later on. The date of the hearing was Thursday the 22nd of November. I'm going to start again because it's just one of those days. Today is the 22nd of October 2020 and the members of this panel were councillors Elizabeth Dennis-Harburg, Mike Rice and Richard Thake. The applicant was Dale Maybert and the relevant premises are the first floor raised outdoor seating area of the engine, which is at 3 Station Road, Baldock, Hertfordshire, SG7 5BS. This was a temporary event notice application made on the 8th of October 2020. And this is an application for a temporary event notice under Section 100 of the Licensing Act 2003. The details of the application are that the date of the event are to be from the 26th to the 31st of October 2020, and the times of the event on each day will be from 1200 until 21:30. The duration of the event is 6 days, and the licensable activities are the sale by retail of alcohol for consumption on the premises only. And the details of the event is it's to be an additional outdoor seating area to be used as a dining area for the consumption of food and drink. Now, the important part is the decision that we've reached. The subcommittee has read the material presented to it, and we have listened to all of the evidence and submissions made by the applicant and relevant authorities, our licensing officers and legal advice. The subcommittee has considered the Licensing Act 2003, the National Guidance and NHDC's Statement of Licensing Policy. And having done so, we have decided not to issue a counter notice, which, putting that in less mealy-mouthed language, means that we will allow the temporary event. Now, the reasons that we've reached this decision is that we didn't feel that stopping the event is appropriate for the promotion of prevention of public nuisance licensing objective, which was the only licensing objective to be considered on this application. In making this decision, the subcommittee's taken into account the following evidence relating to the prevention of public nuisance license objective. The subcommittee did not feel that issuing a counter notice was necessary to promote the prevention of public nuisance. And part of this actually was because the subcommittee listened to the evidence provided by Environmental Protection, and we were not sufficiently satisfied based on Environmental Protection's evidence that a counter notice was necessary to promote the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. Because this is a temporary event notice, there are no conditions that are being attached to it. police closure powers, which Mr. Maybert should pay close attention to, the subcommittee notes that the police have powers to close premises for up to 24 hours. They may exercise these powers when a temporary event notice is in effect and they are satisfied the event is disorderly, likely to become disorderly, or causing nuisance as a result of noise from the premises. Such orders may be made where it is appropriate in the interest of public safety in cases of disorder or to prevent nuisance in the case of noise coming from the premises. I don't know what, that's the end of the notice. I don't know what noise prevention is going to be in place at this particular location. I'm aware of the issues that will and must be resolved elsewhere between Mr. Maybert and Environmental Protection. And I will leave those matters in your hands for both parties to think about responsibly and sensibly and to take sufficient advice. And I wish you the best of luck with this event, and please don't let us down. And that's all I have to say. That's the decision. It will be available to you. The event notice is granted, and have a great day. Thank you very much for your time and patience, especially at the beginning of the hearing, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're free to go now.
Am I?
No, I say I will be.
Oh, are you free? Oh, yes, you're class dismissed. Have a great day.
Yes,
Go away.
thank you. Thank you
Have
very
lunch.
much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everyone.